Hi, welcome to the Pyllon Ultra Pod, where we sometimes dive deep into the world of ultra running and endurance sports. I'm Paul, and this is another of my Paul's on the Run pods, which are shorter, sharper episodes that I do without co-pilot James being here. And they're usually just thoughts I've been pondering as I've been out running during the week, and stuff that feels like it's worthwhile sharing, or at least talking about anyway. So I've actually recorded this podcast as a video too for YouTube, because lots of people seem to want to consume their podcasts on YouTube these days. It's no flashy production, it's just a camera and an office space in the house. So don't have high expectations for the video quality or editing or anything. But if you want to put a face to the name, then you can get me on YouTube. Hello, if you're watching the video, hello. It feels a bit weird, doesn't it? A parallel virtual audio video combination podcast. So anyway, the last few weeks I've talked a fair bit about nutrition when racing in particular, and it's maybe been a bit heavy for some or quite ultra running specific, but I've actually had a lot of good feedback on the last few episodes, particularly around the psychological block or barriers that a lot of people are experiencing when trying to eat in races, and I'm clearly not the only one who's noticed it, be it from a crewing perspective and you've seen it in other people, or it might be something that you've experienced yourself and maybe haven't thought it through. Today should be much more light-hearted because it's about celebrating something truly special, and that is our uniqueness. So watching all the racing over the last few weeks, obviously I'd crewed at the West Highland Way race, we've had races on over the weekend and a lot of people out there competing. And it was a good reminder of something that I've spoken about before, maybe less so on the podcast and more so with the athletes that I've coached over the last few years, is why is it that we seem to strive to be the same when it's really our individual quirks and preferences that bring life and joy to the sport that we love? So I thought it was something that we could explore together today. In ultra running and endurance sports, there's a tendency to follow trends, and they could be simple trends like the kit that we use and the way we prepare for races and the types of sessions that we do. And you see it in all sorts of sports as well. You see it quite a lot in triathlon actually. And then we want to mimic successful athletes, which isn't a bad thing. We can learn a lot from the people that are doing an amazing job in the sport that we love, but we can sometimes forget what it is that makes us unique. And today, I want to remind you, it's actually your individuality that makes you stand out and excel. As Oscar Wilde once said, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." And this rings especially true, I think, in the world of ultra running. Whether you're someone who loves the rough, rugged trails and mountains, or you prefer the smooth, faster roads, embracing what you love is really key to you finding joy and success in your sport. Why is it that we all want to be the same? Like, you go and watch any race and I don't know, there's just this feeling that we all want to look the same and be the same and feel the same. And I think part of it really is this natural human instinct to fit in and to be part of a community, and we can see that quite a lot. It's particularly strong in sports where there's a good sense of camaraderie and shared experiences are really valuable, and that's an important part of ultra running obviously. But I think it's essential to remember that whilst community is important, your individual journey as part of that community is equally important. Brené Brown, the super well-known researcher, author, I'm sure you've come across her on social media, we've certainly spoken about her in the podcast or at presentations at XPs and stuff, but she talks a lot about vulnerability and authenticity, and I know authenticity is an overused term at the moment, and it's been kind of ruined by social media, but this idea that authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you really are deep down. And I think it's a powerful reminder that being true to yourself, even in your training and racing, is crucial. And the road to character is about recognising your flaws. It's about accepting them and challenging yourself to work on them day after day. It's about striving to do more with what you have and who you are. Now, I have loads of stories about runners I've coached over the years, and I won't go into anyone specifically, but there's been a group that maybe start their own journey quite focused on what other people are doing. So immediately they want to do the biggest and the toughest and the most races in a year, and they are really keen on making sure they've got the latest kit, and that's going to help them and propel them forward. And they want the most popular training approaches. They've read about 100-mile weeks and they want to do 100-mile weeks, and they've read about 20,000 metres of ascent in a week and they want to do a 6-week block of doing that kind of stuff. But it really wasn't until they started opening up a little bit and listening to their own body and preferences and joys that they truly began to perform well in a racing capacity and in their training. So an example would be, like, I can think of someone who discovered that they really love running at night time, so they love the head torch on and going out into the woods, so they embraced that love of running at night. And the lower intensity, longer trail runs were a real treat for them. So, like, even from my side of things, we could have a really structured plan during the week and do some intensity in there, and then at the weekend, because I knew they got a lot from going out and planning a run and spending 5 hours in the mountains, the session could be a 5-hour session on trail or in the mountains, and that energy came to the rest of their training and helped to keep them moving forward all the time. So it's really important, I think, that you start listening to your own body and understanding what your real preferences are. I see a lot of athletes choosing to do, for example, or choosing races that they're good at doing, the types of races that they're good at doing, and they might not be the races that they really love doing. So there's some level of dissonance in that, I think, and it's almost like we prioritise success over, and the perception of success externally over fulfillment and satisfaction and joy, and that's always going to have an impact on your personal well-being, I would argue. So according to a study published a while back in the Journal of Sports Science, athletes who tailored their training to their personal preferences and sometimes their strengths, they not only performed better but also had higher levels of satisfaction and lower rates of burnout. So they were able to continue to stay motivated in their training rather than getting to the point that they've maybe done too much and they just don't feel like doing the same thing anymore. So this shows that if you embrace your uniqueness, it isn't just good for you as an individual, it isn't just good for your soul, it's actually good for your performance too. So how can you really embrace your uniqueness in ultra running and endurance sports in general? And I came up with a list of 5, right? I'm not doing this, well, I'm always conscious of doing these lists because they're like these social bite-sized chunks that you see on social media all the time, and I kind of question their usefulness sometimes, but in this case, when you're listening back to a podcast, it can be good to go back sometimes and think, well, did I consider all the 5 things that he talked about? Or you might just remember 3 of the most important things to you, and that's okay. So the first one I jotted down was identifying your preferences, right? It's fairly obvious. What do you enjoy most? Do you enjoy being on road? Do you enjoy being on trail? Are you really loving getting up early and doing your run in the morning and your day's clear? Or do you like coming home at night and maybe having a bite to eat and going out in the evening? In summertime, that can be really rewarding and really nice sometimes. So understanding what you love in your training is going to guide where that plan goes and how you approach getting fitter and getting stronger. The second thing I put down leads from that really. It's about tailoring your training. So if you can customise your training plan to include some of your preferences, like it can be small things like I really, really love running on trails, so you can say to yourself, well, I'm going to do 80%, 90% of my training on trails. I'm going to take my intervals onto trails. I've got a flat trail there that works, and I'm going to make sure my longer sessions are always somewhere new or somewhere where I've driven to, and that small level of customization can really bring a lot of energy to your training overall. The third thing I'd put down was about celebrating your wins. And I think every unique choice that you make, and every time you get up and go out your training, you're making a choice to do that. It's not like we program ourselves the night before, the alarm goes off, we get up and we go. We still have to make that choice that I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to go out. So each time you do that, it's almost like a small victory, and you should be able to celebrate those. You should recognize them, and it might be more than that. It might be that the last time I did that hill rep session, I really struggled on the last 2 reps. I really felt tired, and I was out of energy, and I slowed down, and it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. And then 4 weeks later, you do a similar session, and you feel strong right to the end, and you actually feel like I could have done another rep there. I'm finished feeling good, feeling positive about the session. So it's important you recognise those and almost celebrate those wins, I think. And then the fourth one I put down is really important, I think, and that's about ignoring the noise, right? It's really, really easy to get distracted by what other people are doing, right? You should really focus on your path and what works best for you and forget everything else. You can be inspired by them, but you have to choose your own path. So it's dead easy to see some kind of training session or a massive training block on social media or Instagram or whatever, and you automatically think that you're missing out and I should be doing the same thing. And Strava, for all its positives around community, and inspires a lot of people to get out and do their training when they've seen their friends have been out there, and it's a great tool for that kind of thing. Also good to stalk your competitors before a race just to find out what they've been doing too. But it can also take you off your own path, and I think that's an important point, because you could find yourself, and I've done it in the past, I don't really use Strava, but I've done it in the past, that maybe you're a week out or 2 weeks out from your race, and you're maybe looking at your competitors if you're looking to do well in the race, and you're thinking, my training was very different from them. I should have done those really long back-to-backs, or I didn't do enough ascent. They've done loads of ascent, so they're going to be stronger than me. So I would suggest that some of that is just noise, and you almost need to put on the noise cancelling headphones if you can recognise that it's not being productive for you. If it's not serving you, you have the capacity to switch that off. Same as social media. You know, I know it feels like that'd be a terrible thing if I had to step away from social media, but we still do have the choice. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but we do. We can agree that you're only going to do it for 10 minutes a day, or once a week I'm going to spend some time looking at some runners or whatever it is, and make an active choice in that kind of stuff. And then the final one really is about seeking inspiration, but not imitation. I think it's a good thing to look up to other athletes. Obviously, there's people doing some amazing things, and it's very inspiring at times. But don't try to be them. You have to learn from their journeys and apply those lessons that you can glean from their journeys and make them your own. Do it in your own unique way. And you can see that in life in so many examples. It's not the copiers, it's not the imitators who really have longevity in life. It's the people, it's the brands, the writers, producers, musicians and athletes who are inspired by the people around them, but they go out and they forge their own path, and we all have the capacity to do that if we're willing to celebrate what's different and what's unique about us. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Famous quote by somebody way brighter than me. Bonus points if you can guess who. Bonus points if you've never heard it before, to be honest. But I think it's especially true in ultra running. It's your journey and your path, and it's unique and it's worth celebrating. So for me, really, I think if you take anything from this, it would be about trying to remember that a lot of the beauty in ultra running lies in its diversity, in those varied paths that we take and the different paces that we set. I watched a lot of the Western States 100 coverage over the weekend, and whilst the battles up front of the field were absolutely compelling viewing, they were amazing, it was fantastic, incredible athletes, and just brilliant to watch. There's 300 other stories out there, and every one of them is unique, and some of them might actually be far more inspiring than the record times and the elite performances of the top 10. So maybe you can embrace your uniqueness, maybe you can celebrate it, and maybe that can guide you to new heights as well. So thank you for joining me today on the Pyllon Ultra Pod. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share it with friends, do a like, make a comment on YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube. I would really appreciate it, and let's continue to celebrate our unique journeys together. Until next time, keep running your race your own way, and hopefully I'll see some of you out on the trails, or maybe even at our next Pyllon Experience event, which is happening in September in Glenshee. It's always one of the absolute best weekends of the year, where a bunch of unique individuals get together just to be awesome, really, and do some cool running stuff. So it's as simple as that. You can find out some more information on the website pyllonultra.com. I will speak to you soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're one of the 10 people who watch the YouTube video, and I'll catch you later. Cheers, bye.